Hello everyone and welcome to my new video. And what is this video about? Well, what we are going to do is hack the modulators in Live 12 and get them to do what we want rather than what they do out of the box. What are the modulators? Well, in Live 12, all of the things like the LFO and the expression control and the API stuff that uses Max for Live to control various parts of the live set, they were recategorized into modulators, which I think is a very good idea, makes perfect sense. And so these are devices that you can drop in and they interact with Ableton in certain ways. So the classic one is obviously the LFO. You drop it in, you click map, and then you say, right, I want to map my pan here. And then that is now being controlled by the LFO. And also in Live 12, they added this thing where you can choose to modulate it. So you can still have some control over the parameter once it's mapped, or the old school remote option where you kind of control the attenuation and offset or whatever from the device itself. So we all know about that. But what I want to do is I want to take this apart and modify it and make it something unique to me. And I'm going to do that in two ways. I'm going to build a sort of step sequencer modulator, and then I'm going to make another LFO, but that uses FM to kind of shape the LFO shape. It's going to be very interesting. This is going to be one for the Max for Live nerds. So if you're not really a Max for Live nerd, you might not get anything out of this video. But if you are, I hope that you do. Let me know. So first of all, the way that this all works is this uses Max for Live objects that tap into the Live API in order to gain access to its controls and its state and all this sort of stuff. This was always a little bit too advanced for me. They are making it easier and more intuitive as Max progresses in its versions. But what I'm simply going to do is just take this apart and just take what I need in order to map stuff to parameters and then just create a different source for what is actually doing the modulation. So I'm going to open up the LFO and I'm going to open it in, it's opened in Max for Live like this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unfreeze it. And freezing means that you can't really make any changes, but you can unfreeze it and then you can make all the changes that you want. And then I'm going to go into presentation mode. Right, so this is what the LFO looks like inside. And really all I'm interested in is this stuff here, because this is the stuff that's taking the signal and then putting it into all of these things that can do the mapping. So this, I had a look inside here and it was just a little bit too much for my brain. But yeah, it's using things like live remote and probably maybe there's the new mapping thing, live.map. No, this looks like it's doing it the old school way. Live.modulate. So that is one of the newer API objects that makes this whole thing a little bit more intuitive, but I'm not going to get into that now. What I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to steal what I want and delete everything else. So I'm going to delete, let me zoom out a little bit. I'm going to delete all of this stuff and keep this stuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build my own modulator that is going to come into this clip here, which then goes to all the API stuff. Now, if you're following along, be very careful what you do next, right? Don't save this device. We need to save this device as a completely new device, because if you save this, this is the built-in LFO. You're going to crap out the LFO. You're going to have to reinstall it or whatever. We don't want that to happen. So pay attention. Pay attention. You at the back, pay attention. So we're going to go to File, Save As. And I will save this on my desktop. Where's my desktop? I'm saving it on my desktop, and I'm just going to call it mod step hack. Right, that is the name of my device. Okay, so that is now saved. Right, now I'm going to build a little sequencer. So first of all, I'm going to zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, and then zoom out again, and zoom back in, and I'm going to make a buffer. The buffer, let's zoom in a little bit more to the buffer. Let's go really close. So the buffer is going to be called -- mod step. Now, why have I done that? Well, we need to give the buffer a name. But the thing is, if we give it a name without the -- then if we were to use multiple instances of this device in Ableton, they're all going to reference the same named buffer, which is a terrible headache. Don't do that. But if we create a -- before the name of the buffer, then when you load the device, it creates a unique ID that's only relevant to that device. So that means that we can use multiple instances of this device later, and it should all work as expected. So we have the size, we have the name of our buffer, and now I want to give it a size in samples. So I'm going to say @samps16. So now we have a buffer full of 16 samples. If I double click this, we can see that there's nothing in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to write some samples into that buffer. Let's put that there. Let's maybe just do a little bit of resizing. Put this over here. Right. Okay, very good. Let's zoom out a little bit and unlock the patch. And let's make a multi-slider. Let's zoom back in again. Let's make a multi-slider. And to start with, let's say at size 16. And that is going to create this nice UI thing, which lets us draw stuff like this. And we need to make some further adjustments. So I'm going to open the inspector for the multi-slider. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to go to the range and I'm going to say 0 to 1. I want the range to be from 0 to 1. So when it's down here, it's 0. When it's up here, it's 1. Because we're working with audio and generally, well, audio goes from -1 to 1, but I'm working in unipolar audio. So that's 0 to 1. This will all make sense later. So, and I also just want to do a couple of things to make it look nice. So I'm going to change the slider style to bar. And then I'm just going to go up here and go to the slider spacing and just set that to maybe 1. There we go. That looks nice, doesn't it? We could even change the color, but let's not get too... What have I just done? We can even change the color, but we're not going to do that right now. Right, okay. So this is what we're going to use to draw in our little sequence. And we need to write those values into something that can store it in the buffer. So we're going to use peak. And I'm going to give the peak the same name as the buffer. So that's -- mod step. And then I need to, so peak, what peak does, let's have just a quick look. Read and write samples, use peak to read and write samples to a named buffer, unlike related. So basically what you can do is that you can write some values and then they appear in the buffer and then we can access them later with another object. So in order to do that, we're going to need a list funnel. I'm going to make a list funnel. And basically what this does is takes all of the output of this stuff. So if I was to, connect this to a message box, and draw all this stuff, it's give me a list of numbers. And what we need to do is we need to say, right, I want sample 1 to be 0.511737 and sample 2 to be 0.5113, etc. And that's what the list funnel is going to do. It's going to basically put all of that list data into like an indexed list that Peak will understand. I hope I'm making sense. Sometimes I just sort of listen to myself talking whilst I'm talking and I'm thinking, am I actually making any sense or am I just waffling? It might be the coffee. Anyway, so now if I click this, we can see that we've written some samples into our buffer. So if I close that and then double click the buffer again, yeah. So if I click here and click here and click here, we can draw like a little sequence of stuff. Now, that is perfect. So now we need a way to read those samples back. And I'm going to do that with wave tilde. Give it the same name as the buffer, -- mod step. And a couple of values that aren't important, but I'm going to put them in anyway just to be sure, which is the start point of 0, the end point of 0, and the number of outputs, 1. Okay, so this essentially is like a sort of sampler that kind of also works like an oscillator. So we are going to read back the contents of this buffer using wave. And in order to do that, we need to drive we need to drive this sort of sampling oscillator. We need to read through all of these values. So to do that, I'm going to use phaser. Now, I kind of want this to be at a tempo-based. We could have this be like an audio rate step sequencer, but to start with, I want it to be like, I want it to move with the transport. So I'm going to use phaser and I'm going to give the phaser an initial state of 1.0.0, which is 1 bar and at lock 1. So what that is going to do now is ramp from 0 to 1 over the course of 1 bar at Ableton Live's tempo. So if I start the transport here, I'm at 100 BPM. So if I start the transport here and go back to max, you can see that we are now ramping from 0 to 1 over the course of 1 bar at 100 BPM. If I wanted that to be 2 bars, I could just put a 2 here like this. So this is bars, beats, and units. This is good, useful stuff. So all we need to do is just plug that into the wave. And this is what we get on the way out. We're getting the contents of this buffer being read back as a waveform. Isn't that interesting? Now, you can see how it's kind of actually interpolating between all those samples in a linear fashion. And that's because wave has these different interpolation attributes. which are pretty useful, especially when we're making kind of like a modulator sequencer, because we might not want the sequencer to be linear. We could have no interpolation and then we get this sort of stepped thing, which is pretty nice. Or we could have cosine, which means that we get these nice wavy, nicely interpolated. It's all about the way that the samples move from one to the other. Cubic, all this sort of stuff. Spline. Hermite. Some of these I don't really know very well. But anyway, what we can do is we can add in an option. Actually, let's just see how many there were. So there are 7 interpolation types, 0 being none. So what I might do then is just make a little quick UI parameter. Let's say prepend interp. And I'll make a live number box. I'll go into the live number box inspector and I'll just say that I want this number box to go from 0 to 6. And I want the type to be integer. That's really all we need to do. And then what I can do is connect that to my prepend interp, connect that to my wave, and then I can say 0, I want no interpolation. I could make a live tab that has all the names, but I don't have time for that right now. I want this to be quick. So that is pretty much it for our step sequencer modulator, at least in its early stages. So I'm just going to take all of this stuff. I don't need that anymore. I'm going to put this over here and connect that to this clip object. And that is going to take that signal and send it into all of these, B patches and all this. This is someone else's very, very hard work, which I've stolen. Thank you for letting me do that. And then that should now enable us to use this sequencer to map to something in Ableton Live. So let's see if that works. Let's zoom out a little bit. Let's just click this object. I'm going to hold shift and click this object, and I'm going to go command shift P, and now they've been added to the presentation. So let's go into presentation mode and let's just make this a little wider. Okay, this is going to look a little naff, but whatever. It's a tutorial. It's fine. Let's put the interp type down here, and we can maybe just put a quick comment in here. Interpolation type. In black on grey, which everyone likes, don't they? Right, let's put that there. And then let's save this. Remember, we did a save as, so we've essentially saved this as a brand new device. Let's go save. And, it's asking me to save it again. That's interesting. Okay, I'll overwrite the last thing I did. Save, replace. Okay, that's fine. Let's close it. All right, so here's our sequencer. One thing I like to do is just delete it and then reload it again. So let's see if it's worked. The transport's running. Let's draw in some stuff here. Yep, okay, it's working. Let's click map and map it to the frequency of our operator. Yes, it's working. Let's listen to it. Change it to a remote. Yeah. So if I did something like this. Yeah. Let's see if the interpolation types work. So this is no interpolation. This is linear. Lovely. This one is, can't remember what that one is. 3 is cosine. Yeah, we can see that they're working. Yeah, lovely. Okay, so some of you might be thinking, well, what's the point in that? I could just do that with clip automation. Yes, you could, and you would be right for asking that question. However, when you do this with clip automation, you are kind of bound to the length of the clip. Well, actually, that's not strictly true. You could do unlinked automation, and then you could say have your automation go for like 3/8 notes or 7/16 notes or whatever. That is totally fine. However, with this, we can actually go a little bit further. So let's just do that right now. Let's go back into our device and go back into patching mode. And then, so there's a couple of things that we could do. We could change the size of the samples and the size of the steps. So for the buffer, let's zoom in a little bit. We would need to make prepend samps, and then for the multi-slider we would need prepend size, and then we could make a live dial which we could give a name, and we could say that the name is steps. And why is it only, that's the scripting name. Where is the, sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Right, okay, here we go. So short name, actually, no, do it to long name. No, actually, do link the scripting name and then do the short name steps. Haven't done Max for Live for a while. I've been on holiday. And then the range we want to be in integers. We can say that we want it to be from 2 to 127. Okay, so let's plug that into, let's make it nice and big. Large, right, and then let's connect that to the prepend size and the prepend samps. So now when I update this, that worked. There we go. So now I've got 4 steps, or if I change that to 5, I can have 5 steps. And indeed, that should be reflected in the buffer as well. Cool. So we've got a control for our sequencer. Then we could maybe have different directions at which the phaser could ramp through the list of samples that are stored in this buffer being read back by this wave object. So what would be a good way to do that? Well, I guess it depends. This is kind of when we're going to have to make some decisions. This is a pretty straightforward decision, but this is a little bit like there are lots of options. We could maybe do something like, rather than do it in bars, we could try and do it in beats. So I'm going to make a pack 0, 0, 0. And what that is going to allow me to do is to create, actually, I'll just disconnect that. That will allow me to create a list that the phaser will recognize. And I'm going to use the middle inlet, and I'm going to say, let's see. Right, okay, so that has created a list of 0, 1, 0. Now, if I was to send that into phaser, then that means that phaser is going to understand that as I need to ramp from 0 to 1 at 1 beat. Let's just see how that works. Let's just set this to 1. Let's go back to live, start the transport. Okay, let's just ignore the audio for a minute. I just want to use my eyes. So, okay, we can sort of see down here that is probably now ramping through all of that at 1 beat. And then if we go to, actually a good way to do this would be to set this to 2, have 1 up and 1 down. Okay, so now that's going across that sequence at 1 beat up, down. This is kind of cool because you can sort of just have like not only is it like a sequencer, but it could also be a custom wave shape LFO. And you could set that based on the interpolation type. So currently there's no interpolation. So we get a square wave. If I set this to interpolation of 1, then we get a triangle wave. Yeah, that's a triangle. And then if we set this to 2, then we get, oh no, 3 maybe. Now we've got a sine wave. If we added in like an extra step, we could have like an extra sort of kink or whatever, a shape to our LFO. So we're kind of creating a custom LFO as much as we're creating a custom sequencer. So I will I'll take a copy of this live dial, plug that in there, and I'm going to go into the inspector. I'm going to rename this to rate in beats. Spell it right, rate in beats. Okay. Okay, no, you need to do it in quotation marks. Rate in beats. And then I'll just, come out of that, copy that, and then put that in there. Yeah. Okay, and I'll say the minimum I want to be 1 beat, and then we could have up to 127 beats. So it could be a pretty slow sequencer as well. Let's see how that has worked. So that's gone down to 1. And then if we go up to 127, then it's going to go through that sequence very, very, very slowly. Let's try 16. Let's try 4. So if we had 16 steps here and a rate of 4, yeah, let's try a rate of 1. All right, okay. Let's add these 2 dials to our presentation. So I'm going to do Command Shift and P. And then I'm going to go into presentation and I'm going to put these in the presentation. So I'll just put them over here or something. It's not going to be the nicest looking thing in the world, but that's okay. Put that there. Actually, let's put the steps at the top, rates in beats at the bottom. Okay. And then let's put that there. This doesn't look very good, but never mind. I don't care. Right. Okay. So let's save it. Again, it's asking me to give it a name. I don't understand why that is because I've already saved it. I just want to, okay, fine. Replace. Okay. Close it down. Come back in here. I'm just going to delete it, which I don't really need to do. It's just a little habit. Right. Okay. Let's draw in some steps here and let's see if it's mapped. Okay, that's cool. So let's try rate in beats of 4. Okay, let's try 3 steps. All right, that is... that's kind of all right, but like it's not really going fast enough. I'd actually like that to go faster. What could I do about that? Because this is sort of when sequences get a little bit tricky because you need to find a relationship between how many steps you have and how fast you want to advance through those steps. And the way that I've done that maybe is not the best way to do it. So if I have 4 steps, yeah, I would maybe like that to go faster. So maybe I could, what did I go in here? I went into the beats. So this would be bars, beats, and units. You know what? I'm not going to bother with it. I'm not going because I want to get onto the next thing. Anyway, so it's just a starting point. If you're curious about this stuff, this is a good way to find your way in, I think. And this is a perfectly fine sequencer. If we did this at like 120, let's see what 127 steps looks like. Then we just draw in. And then if we did this at a rate and beats of 16, we've got like a... Yeah, it's an interesting usable sequencer to start with. But what if I want, like, I'm slightly concerned that I can't just get the original 16 steps sequencer. Okay, that's now 16 steps. Or 16th notes. Or is it? No, we're at 100 BPM. It's probably... Let's go to 120. I think maybe I'm just... Yeah, that's 16th. That's 16th notes there, right. So with 16 steps and a rate in beats of 4, that makes sense. So we've got 16 steps, 4 beats, 4 beats and a bar. That's going to be 16 steps over 1 bar. That makes perfect sense. All right, cool. All right, I'm happy with that. So there we go. That is the first part of this video done. That is how we can make a little step sequencer modulator to control Ableton Live with. I'm going to delete that now. All right, actually, I'll just leave it in there and I'll duplicate this track and then I'll delete this one. So now what I want to do is make an LFO, but I want to make an LFO that's shaped using FM. So I'm going to repeat exactly the same process. I'm going to drag in the stock LFO, open it up in Max for Live, make it a bit bigger, unfreeze it, go into presentation mode, and delete all of this stuff. And then save as. This is very important. I'm going to go save as. I'm going to save it to my desktop, and I'm going to call this FM LFO. Okay. So that should be fine. Now, for this one, I don't really want to work at tempo. I'm just going to make a weird experimental FM oscillator. So I'm going to start with maybe making a cycle. Zoom in a little bit here. I'm going to make a cycle, a saw, a rect, and that might be it. 3 oscillator types. And I'm going to make a live dial. I'm going to open the inspector, set it to large, and then I'm going to right click the live dial, go to prototype and go to frequency. So now that, and now it's gone back to small. Let's put it back to large. Right, okay. So now that is a live dial. What have I just done there? Clicked it by mistake. Right, so now we've got a live dial that goes from 0 hertz to 10,000 hertz. Great. So let's plug that into each of our oscillators and then just check that that's working. Okay, so that's working. Maybe 10,000 hertz is a bit excessive. So let's go to the inspector and say, let's actually just say we want it to go to 100 hertz because this is an LFO. So it's got to be fairly, even that's too fast. Let's try 20 hertz. Yeah, that's a little bit more sensible. Okay, so we're going to have it go from 0 hertz to 20 hertz. Okay, that's fine. So let's see what the rectangle, the saw's doing. Yeah, the saw is slightly, that's a weird offset. I'm not sure about that. Let's maybe try the rectangle. Yeah, that's also a bit of a slightly straight. Yeah, you know what? I've changed my mind. I'm going to do the phaser for the, let's see what this phase is like. Okay, that's going from 0 to 1. That is what I want. Okay, so I'm going to have to do some signal maths. So for the cycle, well, actually, we could just be quick about this. This is your scale, -1 to 1, 0 to 1 for the cycle. That's fine. Okay, so I'm changing my mind as I go. So the phaser going from, that's fine. We could take a copy of that and invert it, which I believe is this, by 1. Put that in there, and then I think that's going to give me the ramp in the other direction. Yes, that's great. Okay. And then we could do a triangle. I spelled triangle wrong. Triangle. And then that needs a phaser as well. So let's just use that phaser. Okay, and we need to set a attribute for the offset. Yep, okay, that's fine, but that is also the wrong polarity. So I'll just take a copy of that scale, put that in there. Now that's going from 0 to 1. Okay, that's fine. And then for my square, I'll just take the phaser and do less than 0.5. Then I can take my phaser, put that in there, and then I'm going to have a square. Yep, there's my square. All right, they're all looking very good. So those are going to be my, well, operators, my carrier and my modulator for my FM LFO. Let's delete all of this stuff. And we need, right, okay. I'm getting ahead of myself. Selector, now we need a selector. Selector with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inputs. So the first input is going to be our sine wave. The second is going to be our phaser up. The third is our phaser down. The fourth is our triangle. And the fifth is our square. And let's make a live tab. And we'll say in our live tab that we want this to be sine, ramp up, ramp down, triangle, and square. All right, there we've got a live tab, very useful so that we can switch between all our oscillators. And we just need to do a +1 and connect that to our selector, and then look at our live scope and select a sine, ramp up, ramp down, triangle, and square. Beautiful! Right, okay, so that is our first oscillator. And it's a little bit of a mess, but that's okay. Let's just keep going. So let's just take a copy of this. And because this is going to be our modulator. Now we need to make a decision over where this all happens, because when you do FM, yeah, okay, right. We're going to have to make a few changes here. So what I'm going to do then is move this up here, delete this, and create a sig 0 and connect the, so this will be our carrier frequency, and we're going to add the output of our modulator frequency to this signal, which will then set the frequency of all our oscillators. So I think we can go here with that and here with that. Maybe I should actually just plug the phaser into the cycle like that. Yeah, that might be better. So you can drive a cycle by a phaser. Let's just check if that's worked. Set sine, set frequency. Yeah, that's working. Okay, great. So now what we can do is we can implement our modulator simply by adding the output to this here. But we want to have an amount at which we add that signal. So we'll simply make a multiply object starting with 0. And we want to have an amount at which we, like how much, because if we just add it together, it's going to be adding values between 0 and 1 together. We don't want that. So I'm just going to start by just making a float here, connect that to my multiply, and then I'm going to add this to my carrier here. So let's set this quite low. Okay, that's working quite fine. And let's set this to a ramp and dial this in, and then just start to increase the multiplication here and see what we get. Nope. That is not what I was expecting. Right. Why is that? Actually, I did something here that was different to the other one. Right. Okay, we've got to work this out. We've got to work this out, people. Let's see what's going on here. Let's just check our other oscillator is working. Ah, yes, it's working. Okay, right. I think I was just not going fast enough. So let's maybe increase this. All right, now we're getting some FM here. Let's set this to a triangle. Go really, really, really slow. Let's set this to 1. Okay, yeah, it's happening. It's happening. You can, but why is it not? Let's try square. Oh, that looks like maybe that's working. Okay, yeah, we're getting some squareness added to our very, very, very slow sine wave here. I think this is maybe working. Let's try bringing this one. There we go. Yeah, right. Okay, it's working, people. Yay, we did it. Right, so let's delete these. And then all we should be able to do now is just connect the output of this to our clip here. And we can see down there that that is all looking good. So let's make some decisions here. Let's maybe name this as the carrier. Actually, no, I'll just put these in a comment. Let's just comment here. Carrier and modulator. Okay. Select this, select this, select this, select this. Do Command Shift P, and we need a dial for this as well. So maybe I'll just do a live dial, and I'll just go to the prototype and I'll just say amount. That's going to go from 0 to 100. That's fine. Connect that in there and add that to our presentation. Go into presentation and write that and that. Let's move that over here. Okay, so let's check that we've got the right ones. So let's see which ones are these ones. Yeah, those are the carrier. So we could maybe just put something like this, do it a bit like this, make it a bit slimmer, and then put that there. And then do the same for this. Let's put that there, and then this could go here. Select that, do Command J, justifies them. Right, that's nice. Put that there. And then we could just have this go here or something. Right, okay, that looks like that's all we need for our FM LFO. Look at it, it's beautiful. It's all wonky, wibbly, wobbly, woo-woo. Right, let's save that. It's going to ask me. Right, that time. No, it does want me to. I think it's because Live wants you to save it in the Max for Live folder. I'm saving it somewhere else. Anyway, let's just go save, replace, close that, and delete that. Let's go back into Live, delete that, and reload it and see if this has worked. Let's close this. So let's map this to something. Let's set this to remote and map it to the frequency of our operator here. All right. All right. go. So we've got some very weird LFO shapes there. Try the square. That's interesting. Yeah, FM LFOs are where it's at, people. Yes, riding my horse to the rave. Riding my filter frequency to the rave. Yeah, we can get into sort of audio rate as well if we want, but maybe an amount of 100 is a bit much. But beautiful. So there we go. It works, but you can't really stop it. So I guess we just turn it off. There we go. So there you go. There was a couple of ways that you could get into the idea of hacking the modulators in Ableton Live 12. And at some point, I will go a little bit deeper in terms of being able to understand how you can create these systems to set up the mapping. It is a lot easier in Live 12 and Max 8. And I suspect it's probably going to get easier as time goes by. Okay, Max for Live nerds, I hope you like that. Now I'm going to go and put this on my Patreon, where if you can't be bothered to try this yourself, you can just download them and download a whole load of other stuff to do with Ableton and Max for Live and all kinds of things. Meet people, make new friends, and talk to me, and maybe get some private tuition if you want. I don't know, you don't have to. Or you could just copy everything I've done in the video. All right, have a nice time. See you in the future. Goodbye.